Back on the Sports Zone, I am Mike Aglialoro. The NFL draft has come and gone, and we've already started to look at some of the early winners and losers from the first couple days. We're going to look at some of the teams, now that we have a full picture, we're going to look at some of the teams that we haven't talked about who made out pretty good, and a couple not so much. We're going to start with the St. Louis Rams. The Rams had 2 picks in the first round, thanks to the final remnants of trading away the number 2 pick that led to Robert Griffin III to Washington a few years ago. They added someone that they know is going to be a pillar of their offensive line for the next decade in tackle Greg Robinson. Then they added what was a luxury pick for them, but really is going to wind up turning their defensive line into, right now, it's the favorite for the best in the NFC. Forget the NFC West. It's the whole NFC. Aaron Donald fell to them at pick number 13, the defensive tackle. So to go with Michael Brockers, Robert Quinn, and Chris Long, you get to put Aaron Donald far and away the best defensive tackle in this draft, in many people's opinion. That was a solid move for them. And then as they moved down the draft, they moved up in the second round to take cornerback LaMarcus Joyner, who can play that slot almost like a safety. So he's going to add another dimension of versatility to that defense. Then they surprised a lot of people by going with running back Trey Mason in the third round. Now, Trey was actually considered to be the top running back in the draft by many people, including our own Jake Dixon. And as much as Zach Stacy came out of that backfield and was able to dominate at various points throughout last season, having the second running back in Mason is going to make them that much more dangerous. And then the Rams, in a case of the rich getting richer and putting someone into possibly the most perfect situation that could happen to him, Michael Sam drafted to the Rams in the 7th round. And, given all the hoopla that's gone on around Sam, it's nice to see this happen for him, and it's nice to see him go into a situation where he's not going to have any sort of pressure to start right off the bat. Like I said, the Rams quite possibly are coming into the season with the best defensive line in the NFC, and all Michael Sam has to do is give some high energy. He could be sort of a rotation player. He's going to back up Robert Quinn and Chris Long. So all he has to do is just sit behind those two, take it all in, and perform when he's called on. Great situation for him. And give it up for Jeff Fisher for taking the chance and pulling the trigger on the pick. In my opinion, it was a good move for him. Next team we're going to go to, San Francisco 49ers, another case of the rich getting richer. The Niners did what they usually do. They played up and down the draft board, making numerous trades throughout the 3-day period, and they came out of it with safety Jimmy Ward, running back Carlos Hyde, 2 positions that weren't essential to them, but they wound up taking advantage of the best player available on the board. They got Carlos Hyde in case Frank Gore goes down, given the uncertainty in the backfield behind that. And Jimmy Ward can come in with no real pressure to start and still provide an impact if he can grow with them later on in the season. And then in the 3rd round, they were able to take advantage of some value picks. They took one of the better centers in the draft in Marcus Martin and offensive linebacker Chris Borland as a nice insurance piece in case Navarro Bowman is not able to come back this season. And of course, they made the trade with the Buffalo Bills, trading a 4th-round pick in next year's draft for wide receiver Stevie Johnson. And then they were able to grab Bruce Ellington in the 4th round, someone who was considered to be a 2nd-round pick by guys like Mel Kiper Jr., and he falls to them in the 4th round. And they were able to pick defensive back Donta Johnson and linebacker Aaron Lynch for some depth in their defense. So, once again, San Francisco, one of the better teams at drafting in the league. Moving on, another team we didn't really talk about too much this weekend was the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers picked up outside linebacker Ryan Shazier with their first pick, and then they watched as defensive end Stephon Tuitt fell to them with their 2nd-round pick. A guy who was projected to go at the end of the 1st round is still around in the middle of the 2nd, and the Steelers are able to add some youth to a defensive unit that sorely needed it. But they weren't done. As they improved their offense, they grabbed diminutive runner Dre Archer to team with Levon Bell next year, and they added another wide receiver in Martavis Bryant, who's going to wind up helping out in case Marcus Wheaton just is not ready to fill the void left by Emmanuel Sanders. So good value picks by the Steelers, and they've had success with mid-round receivers before. You look at Mike Wallace, Antonio Brown, Emmanuel Sanders. They've all worked out really well for them, and the Steelers continue that trend.